So here's the setup. What's going on? These three little trim pots are used for adjusting kind of a settle time, like a time to wait for when the beam moves. So that adjusts for that. And then another pot is for the number of steps it has in a line. So it actually draws a single vector as a series of steps to try to give a continuous looking line. And then the third one is, so steps still. Yeah, I can't remember what the third one was. Oh, whatever. Anyways, also buried underneath there, hard to see, there's a chip, and it is a dual channel DAC, digital analog converter, because there's only one on the teensy, and I don't know if it's the same precision, whereas this guy's got pretty good precision. And lastly, coming out here, we got a joystick with a button on it. And so this is what we got so far. Let's put you in place here. So there's our spaceship. And I can move the spaceship kind of around and stuff. I got a problem here is that it's moving around, which is great and all that stuff, but it's not moving in the coordinate space is not matching the voltages very well, the voltages that are sent to the oscilloscope. But it's pretty good. I'm glad at the level of movement I can get out of it. So anyways, a little bit more work to do in terms of coordinate system, but super happy that I am now getting some nice movement out of the thing. Yeah. Here's a little tour of the code. I've got it factored into a bunch of classes, typical separation of concerns, stuff like that. I have a user input class, and basically this class handles any kind of joysticks or buttons or anything like that. So right now I've got a joystick attached, and I can support up to 3 buttons on it like that. Update is part of, fetch the values, like telling it to go fetch the values. That's that. I also have, so for my renderer class, IO18 vector renderer, which inherits from vector renderer, is specific to the oscilloscope. And maybe it should be called an oscilloscope vector renderer, but whatever. It basically just draws lines and polygons and stuff like that using voltage. That's how that works. I have a game engine here, registers all the game objects, and then update all gets called from the game engine, or sorry, from the main line to have all of the game objects render themselves. The game object itself, so game object is, it has an update method in it that gets called to display itself. And then we have the actual, this is the main line, and basically on setup it calls the renderer setup, the user input setup. The game engine registers the one object, which is spaceship. I'll get to that in a sec. And then in its loop, all it does is it calls the renderer, it says begin frame, and then it tells the engine to update all of the game objects, which then does a callback to the game objects, and they call the renderer. So here's the game object for the spaceship. On update, it calls user input update. I don't know if this really should be here. Yeah, I think there's going to be a better place for this. And then it just checks to see, hey, if a button is pressed, then we'll do rotation, otherwise we'll do movement. And then it calls this get ship position rotation. What does that guy do? It basically, it should be getting this from input, so I'm not sure. Anyways, it grabs the joystick values and whatnot like that, and then applies a rotation and translation to it, and then it actually draws the spaceship by calling the renderer and drawing a polygon. So that's as simple as it all gets, and so this will grow as the game grows, but pretty straightforward. I think there's a little bit more factoring to go on, but pretty good.